something that really, I guess, came straight away to me,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, I guess, explaining away the, if I may, explaining away the reasoning for the slavery, is,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, you could easily, and I will easily, make the argument that, it was a custom at that time, and it
Mm-hmm.
was it was quite common. It was less defined what good and bad was, and so in that sense, owning a slave was considered okay.
If God came back now, do you think
Mm.
God would have given instructions on how Christians should run OnlyFans? Like, do you think it would be acceptable for God to say, okay, well, it's make sure that you only post 3 anal videos a week. Make sure that 2 of the videos are oral sex. Make sure, like,
Yeah,
do you think that would something that he would do, or that was a really weird divergence, but it was pretty
yeah,
interesting.
it was pretty awesome. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I still wanted to say something, by the way, about morality, but I don't know if I'm keeping you up now or not.
No, no, I'll stay up for a little bit. Go for it.
Yeah. Now, so about morality. So I think what what really gives me the confidence that I guess morality exists is in the sense that, if anyone does something, any group of people, no matter what, can sort of come to the conclusion that what he's done is wrong, right? So like because of that sense, I argue that like if morality didn't exist, or I don't know if I'm straw manning you here, but if morality doesn't exist, or it only exists to the perception of the one person, and they only do what they want to do, well then how come there can be like groups that all can agree that one thing is true, as opposed to the individual idea that I only do what I want to do.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Um so once again, I'm not like, if you want to have the conversation about morality, I'm not super like tied to my idea. So just
Mm.
but I'm happy to explore it with you. And it's
Yeah, yeah.
basically, it's not my idea. It's an idea I get from a streamer that I watch a lot called Destiny.
Mm.
So essentially, my point would be that people, morality is like, you can't point to anywhere in life or biology or anything that's like morality, right? Like, especially
Mm.
if you're a materialist. Like, if you're a Christian or whatever, like, it's, yeah, of course you can point to something, but you point to objective morality. But then at the same time, if you're a Christian that uses the Bible to point to objective morality, you don't know slavery is wrong. Like, for example,
Mm.
right? Like, in the words of Dr. Joshua Bond. But so, um, so in regards to, like just living, doing whatever I want. Well, I guess I would do whatever I want, but like, I'm only operating in my own preferences, in that I don't like to see other people hurt, and I don't like to see other people suffering. So that would be part of my own preferences, right?
Mm.
And then like, so like, you like, okay, well, what about people who are like psychopaths and people who, don't don't hold the same values? Well, I would just say, in that instance, I I like, people, those people, they want to live in a society when they're not going to be stabbed walking down the street, or not going to be robbed. So therefore, it's beneficial for them to say, to agree that, stabbing is wrong and murder is wrong and everything like that.
Mm.
What do you think about that? Like, what problems do you have with that?
Mm. Nah, the one thing I have with the idea of like, I guess, morality, like, am I safe in saying, by the way, that you think that morality doesn't exist, or is it more something else?
No. So, I'm not sure what I think about morality. But in this instance, I'm making the claim that, yeah, there is no morality. That people just operate within their own preferences. Yeah. But like,
Mm.
if you were to like say, what do you truly believe, and like hold me like with a knife to my throat and ask me what, like, I couldn't seriously give you I haven't thought about it enough to give you a good reason. But when I heard someone make that claim, that people just operate within their own preferences, and
You really like
it's,
resonated with it.
yeah, yeah, I resonated with it, but I'm not attached to it. So you might be able to sway me off it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's my goal. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Well, no,
No.
it's fine if it's a goal, because yeah, I mean, yeah. Like I'm not
Yeah. No, no,
tied
no,
to
it's
it
not
all.
my
Yeah,
goal, not at all. But
yeah.
it's just that the issue I have with that idea, I guess, is that it really entertains the postmodernist view of that idea that like every worldview is right and that no worldview is wrong in any sense, and like there are infinite worldviews, because then you got to ask the question of, okay, well, which worldview is correct and which worldview is incorrect? You know what I mean? Like which worldview can we look at and can we say should we be doing, and which worldview can't we be? So like I think claiming that like what's it called, we only operate on our own preferences plays into the idea of what's it called, the postmodernist idea that there are infinite worldviews, because it says, based on your preferences, and your preferences could be any preference depending on the person you ask. Like, therefore, I can easily make the assumption that there are infinite preferences, but then you've got to come to a conclusion as, okay, well, which preferences are right or wrong? And then you have to say, well, then can't you say these preferences also are morals, since we can agree on them?
Well, let me ask you, like, what do you think morals? Like, you believe in objective morality, right? Because you're
Mm,
religious, right?
mm.
So, if you didn't believe in objective morality, is it possible for one for you to think like this? But if it is possible for you to think outside of a theistic worldview, what would you
Mhm.
consider as the like? What would you consider morals are? What are they?
Things that are good natured or bad natured, I suppose.
But aren't you begging the question there? Like, what do you mean by good natured? What is good natured?
Like something, I guess. Yeah, you are right. I'm begging the question. I guess uh, by good nature, I mean, by definition, I would have to say something that like is agreeably uh, uh, good. But then you got to ask, well, what is good? Something that is agreeable to the sense that it's harming. Okay, it's harming no one. It's harming no one and it's benefiting people.
It's harming no one and it's benefiting people. But,
Yeah.
well, okay, well then what happens when like I want to kick a dog to death because I like the sound of like a dog being kicked to death?
Mm.
Is a dog
Well,
someone then?
well, yeah, no, it's not benefiting. Well, first of all, it's not exactly benefiting you, is it? Besides the fact of giving you pleasure, but it's
Yeah, but
it's not
that's pretty important to a life, right? Like
pleasure. Yeah.
you don't just eat food for sustenance. You eat food for pleasure.
Mm,
You go out to restaurants for socialization and pleasure. Like
But it's
this
more
is
of like a negative pleasure, I would argue. It's something you're drawing. Your pleasure is coming from the suffering of others, I guess, and in that sense, it becomes immoral.
well, yeah, it does with other people, right? Like if I was to buy shirts made in it that were made in like a factory, um, like a sweatshop or whatever, that would be well. I guess you could argue that it wasn't at the same time because without that sweatshop, you'd have like factory subsistent farming or whatever. Like,
Mm,
but like let's say like you just take a traditional view of like sweatshops, and it's not good that we buy stuff from sweatshops. Like you could
mm,
argue that like buying those things would be immoral because we're causing harm to people, but that it totally ignores like sentient creatures. Like it totally ignores like the suffering. Like let's say I just really enjoy the sound of like kicking a dog to death. Like I loved
mm,
kicking it in the guts. I loved hearing its like kidneys burst when I kicked
mm.
it. Like I just really loved it. Like
You're being
what
a bit
would
descriptive there. Yeah, sorry,
yeah
go on.
what would be immoral about that under the objective worldview?
Mm.
Objective moral worldview.
I guess nothing. Yeah, nothing is morally
All
acceptable with kicking a dog to death merely for your pleasure.
well, well, hang on. What do you mean morally acceptable? Do you mean like nothing is wrong with it? Do you mean
No, as in like it's not right to kick a dog to death for your own pleasure.
why? What moral codes do you have in the Bible that say that it's not okay to kick a dog to death? In fact, there are
Wait,
Old
hold on.
Test.
Sorry, my mom walked in.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Mum was just saying she was gonna go sleep, and I should probably head off soon.
Oh, okay. Just like
Yeah.
screaming about dead dogs and stuff.
Nah.
Do you need to go now, or can you continue for a little bit?
I could probably continue a little bit, but yeah, we should probably like try and
Oh,
find a
okay.
conclusion to our conversation here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, what would you say to like someone who is like saying, I want to kick a dog to death"? Like, what objectively? Why is that objectively wrong in the theistic worldview, especially when the Old Testament has like scriptures about like I mean, just for anyone, like this is like you believe in the Old Testament God who commanded that we would have dominion over all the animals, etc. Like
mm,
what reason would there be to protect a dog from being kicked to death because I like the sound?
if we have dominion over animals,
Yeah.
there's the Catholic concept which I really like. Is that dominion is separate from domination, and it's that you have to make that differentiation where domination is essentially complete control, unwilling control of everything, whereas dominion is more stewardship. It's more
Hmm.
it's control for care, not control for domination, I
But
suppose.
a vegan would say to you that it's not it's not like so the like where we get all our meat from, for example, when we eat food. A
Mm,
vegan would say that it's not care to kill a cow 20 years before its natural death, like its
mm,
natural age of like when it would normally die. So how would you argue against that with objective morality?
mm. I guess
Because
it's. Mm. Sorry, go on.
like so what I understand, a vegan would say I don't like animals being stabbed in the throat and killed for my taste pleasure. That's what a
Mm,
vegan would say.
mm,
And then someone who believes in objective morality would say, well, like we have our morality comes from God and comes from the Bible.
mm,
Therefore, we should follow what the Bible says. In which case, like I am concerned, like I said before, like we don't know about animal suffering, but we also don't know about slavery.
mm,
If you subscribe to the Abrahamic religion,
mm. Sorry, I just zoned out for a second. So,
that's
what's
all
it
right.
called?
So did I, just
So,
for the last little second while I was talking.
yeah, no. So what you're saying is,
Like, how do
repeat your
you
question. Sorry. Yeah.
so how do you tell that objective morality is wrong? Sorry, with objective morality, how do you tell that animal suffering is wrong, and how do you tell that slavery is wrong, or do you
Mm,
not think those are wrong?
mm. Uh, no, I do think slavery is wrong. I mean,
Okay, well,
obviously, because
okay, let me stop you.
again, sorry to keep going, but what's it called? I think slavery is wrong again because like I'll revert back to my previous statement where it's that it's domination, not dominion. By involving yourself in slavery, you're inherently saying I control you and you do what I want you to do,
Hmm.
and that is purely because I want you to do it. And yeah, and that's whereas killing an animal, you have to separate that from slavery, because first of all, there's the icky debate of, well, do animals have conscience and so forth, and all that, and also you can argue that well, in the long run, the animal could be serving a good purpose of feeding the person who could feed 1,000 people, or feeding the
Hmm.
person who solves world hunger, or feeding the person who, you know, does something like that. So, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
obviously that's a bit of a stretch, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, like
slavery.
without killing this lamb, the person who grew up to save world hunger wouldn't have existed because you'd starve to
Mm,
death. So yeah.
but with slavery, it's achieving nothing, and the result is nothing, and the beginning has been nothing.
Did you watch my debate, or not debate, my conversation with Dr. Joshua Bowen,
Dr. Joshua Bowen.
the seriologist?
Oh, I watched snippets. I
Oh,
watched
okay.
yeah, I watched a few of it in class. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So he has a book called "Did the Old Testament Endorse Slavery?" and he talks explicitly about like the type of slavery the Old Testament endorsed and what
Mm,
it was about and stuff. like I don't know if you know too much about it, but would you be in favor of that type of slavery? This slavery this is a very tough question, by the way, and you've
Mm,
been slammed with tough questions all night. So if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But like,
mm.
would you be okay with that kind of slavery?
Well, I have to know like what kind of slavery of it is it? Because
Um,
to be honest,
so
I was pretty unfamiliar until I saw your channel that the Bible even mentions slavery. Besides the fact that the Jews were put into captivity or whatnot.
yeah, so there's a few different types of slavery. I think there's three. There's sexual slavery, which Dr. Shubon didn't go over too much, but the two main types of slavery is the slavery where an Israelite will come into your captivity, and so there's special rules for them, and the rules for them are there to stay with you for 7 years, but after 7 years you were to set them free, unless you give them a family in that time. In which
Actually, yeah, I do remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah, Exodus 21, I think it is, or Exodus 18, Exodus
Yeah.
21. So yeah, and if they you give them a family and they want to stay with their family after they leave, because if they leave, like at the 7 years, if they want to leave and they want to take their family, they can't. So if they want to stay with their family, they say, "Master, I want to stay with you," and you take them to the priest and you drive an awl through their ear, and they become your property for life.
Mm,
And it also Exodus 21 gives you instructions. This is just for the Hebrew slaves, where you can beat them as long as they don't die within a few days. And it wasn't like the type of beating where it's like they can just beat them senseless for no reason. It was the type of beating where it was used for
punishment.
correction. Yeah, used
Mm,
for correction, because what else did they have? They couldn't be fined. They couldn't own anything because they were slaves.
mm,
And things like that. So, but they could, as long as they didn't die within a few days from the wounds, it was considered moderate correction. And
mm,
then the second main type of slave is the chattel slaves, and these are slaves that you buy from the nations around you, and those slaves are to be passed on to your children as inheritance. So, if you own a slave and you die at the age of 34 or whatever the age of death was around then, you'd pass the slaves onto your children as inheritance.
mm,
And obviously they don't own anything. You can beat them as long as they don't die within a few days, and they're to work your lands, etc., etc. And there's
mm.
also the verse in Numbers. I'm going to get it wrong, but there's the verse in no, it's Deuteronomy. I think it's the verse that says, "Take the virgin woman for yourself." Where when God commanded the Israelites to kill the Canaanites or the Amalekites. I can't remember which one. I always get it
I
wrong.
think it was the Canaanites.
Yeah, it says to kill all the infant boys, but to take the virgin girls for yourself.
Mm,
So it's those type of slavery that we learn about in the Bible, and like I'm just going to, without even asking you the question, I'm going to assume that sits doesn't sit perfect with you in your gut. Like in your gut, you go like, okay, that's it. That sounds wrong, right? And you're probably looking for a way to cross the T's and dot the I's, like working out a way in your mind to like make it work, right?
mm.
Well, yeah. So whatever you're
In a
doing,
sense, yeah.
yeah, in a sense, but I'm not trying to get you or anything, right? Like this is just a conversation.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that whatever you call that thing is what like I call morality, or what I
Mm.
call
The
operating
gut, the
within.
gut feeling, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah,
Say
call
that.
operating within your own preferences. So a lot of there's a few different types of ways you can rectify these verses. You can say, well, that was for a time and place, and etc. But then obviously, those scriptures are tied to God, like God commanding those specific things. And then or you can say, well, this is God helping people at this time and place because that's what they knew. And then you think, okay, well then why can God tell you not to covet thy neighbor's wife, but tell you it's not okay to own another human being as property? And I
Mm,
mean, obviously, there's a way to get around all of this, but it becomes quite evidently clear that um, it makes a lot more sense for the Bible, like in this case, to be general instructions on how best to live at that time and place. And that's kind of like what how I view it. But then once again, we're getting back to what I was saying before, is like people are operating within their own preferences. So like these people found a way to live that best suited, like they had rules for their community, and these rules actually served them well in regards to like pillaging other nations and building a strong army and having a strong civilization, and they
Mm,
attributed these things to a god. Like I'm about
mm,
to just before you say anything, I'm about to interview Megan Lewis of Digital Hammurabi, Dr. Josh's wife, who is an Assyriologist as well, but she's still getting her PhD. But she is a Christian, but she's a very interesting Christian in that she's a queer Christian who doesn't believe in the inherency of Scripture.
mm,
So it's gonna be. I can't wait to interview her actually because I have no idea how that works. But
mm.
yeah, so she looks at all these scriptures as like, oh well, obviously this is man's way of like assigning things to God, but you know,
Mm. Interesting. So something that really, I guess, came straight away to me,
mm-hmm,
in terms of, I guess, explaining away the, if I may, explaining away the reasoning for the slavery, is,
mm-hmm,
first of all, you could easily, and I will easily, make the argument that, it was a custom at that time, and it
mm-hmm.
was it was quite common, even, and like I know it also is pretty mind-boggling to me as well, because I've always also had that question in my head, well, if Moses said not to kill, or if God said not to kill, how come Moses is the chosen prophet when he killed and buried an Egyptian man, right,
Mm.
with a rock? But it can always be explained with, I guess at the time it was much easier. It was less defined what good and bad was, and so in that sense, owning a slave was considered okay. But furthermore than that, I had another thought, but I think I'm losing track of it now. But
I, I do have a question for that thought though.
mm,
I don't know if you want to wait to get your other thought back or you want to.
no, no, no. Ask that question. Yeah, it'll probably come up to me. Yeah.
If God came back now and like he didn't come back 4000 BC, 4000 years ago, like around Exodus or whatever, do you think God
Mm.
would have given instructions on how Christians should run OnlyFans?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So like obviously OnlyFans is a thing that you know what OnlyFans is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you shouldn't because you're 17. And no, sorry, sorry.
It's
So
impossible for me not to know, really.
yeah, yeah. But like, let's say like God said, like God came down and he gave instructions on how to run an OnlyFans because it was customary in the day, and a lot of like ladies made their and men made their income from OnlyFans. Like, do you think it would be acceptable for God to say, okay, well, it's make sure that you only post 3 anal videos a week. Make sure that 2 of the videos are oral sex. Make sure, like, do you
Yeah.
think that would be like, do you think that's something that God attributing the characteristics to God? Do you think that would something that he would do, or
No, that does like address a good question. Then it does like really well, I guess, sort of. What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Destroy with facts and logic. My idea of.
it doesn't? Like, first of all, I'm many whiskeys down, so you have to keep in mind that my with this many whiskeys, my brain goes to debauchery naturally, but but it doesn't destroy with facts and logic for sure. Like, it's
No, no,
just
I
a
know. I was
distinction.
just I couldn't think of the right word.
Yeah.
But it does like address that argument I made was, oh well, it was customary at the time, because yeah, then you say, well, if God comes back down and he addresses something else that's customary at our time, when I heard that, it almost invoked in me some almost a heretical thought, which
Yeah.
is that, well, then I would almost disagree with God.
Yeah, exactly.
When
Right.
I would say, hold on a second, like
Yeah,
you
this is
told
an
us,
okay
you told
God.
us, Yeah, you told us not to look at the people lustfully when we're not married, but you're encouraging people to, do this. It's confusing me.
Yeah,
And
but this
yeah.
is the point is that like so this is the point of subjective morality is you have that thing inside you, and I guess some Christians might call it the Holy Spirit. So I
Mm.
guess you could
Yeah, I know my
say
friend does. Yeah, you have a gut feel when you do something wrong. You know you've done it. You know you've
yeah,
done wrong.
so
They say it's the
yeah,
Holy Spirit. Yeah.
so to give you like a most charitable thing, but you're not getting this from the Bible. You're not getting like it's bad to have an OnlyFans from the Bible. You're getting it from, well, actually you could say that because like you just said, the scriptures and stuff. But like if
Mm,
God was to like with the example that we're using, if God was to use those examples, it's
mm,
yeah, it becomes tricky, right? Like,
mm,
and like what all I'm doing with subjective morality, or I'm not even doing with subjective morality. I'm making the case in this conversation that there is no such thing as morality, and that people just operate within their own preferences, and like in society we have these specific preferences, and those preferences like give rise to like, we should not rape, we should not murder, we should not steal from people, etc.
mm.
Because like I don't want to live in like society where like I have the chance of being like raped or murdered or whatever. Like I want to live in a society that doesn't do that. So therefore, like I'm taught from a very young age that those things are bad. Those are naughty things.
Mhm.
And so, but that's just like once again like I don't think too much about morality because
Mm.
you know so I could be wrong. like yeah.
Yeah, no. Uh, yeah, I guess one thing also I want to address is also an idea that I just resurfaced back to me. I'll try and remember both of these things. But the one thing I want to address is oh dang. Oh, hold on. Hold on a second. Give me a moment.
How good are
Uh,
brain farts where you just like forget mid sentence what you're talking about? It always
yeah,
happens
yeah,
to me. Yeah.
yeah. The first thing I wanted to address was okay, well I can't remember that one, so I'll just go on the second one. But the one idea that's been prevailing during this whole argument is maybe there are different types of morals, in the sense that maybe there are objective morals that also coexist with subjective morals that also coexist with the preference moral theory that I guess I'll name the theory that you have. And
Mm.
so maybe it's the fact that, objective morals exist because there is a collection of subjective morals, because, you know, we all have certain preferences that adhere to the moral, right?
Mm.
So, uh, I guess in that sense, I'm arguing that, like, what's it called? The formulation of morals comes first from the person, and then through, you know, discussion of these preferences, they become morals. And I guess that's,
But
I guess, the explanation I want to use here, because I think been the prevailing idea that I've started to formulate during this discussion, is that
but
maybe there's
like
several types of morals. Yeah, go on.
yeah, yeah, like I could get on board with that, but I would still wonder like why like um like how do I describe this in my drunken state? Like if I said like, "Oh, this feels like blub blub," and you're like, "Okay, what does blub blub feel like?" And I'm like, "Oh, blub blub feels good," and you're like, "Okay, like why don't you just say good?" Like what I'm getting at is why do we have the term morals? Like, what is morals? Like, I can we point to it in society? Can we point to it? I guess we can point to it in like a philosophical ideal. Like for example, I've said before that I think I said to you today that was it to you or it was to someone today where I said like, oh yeah, it was to you. The anti-Holocaust, like the Holocaust denial stuff is like immoral. And so like
Mm,
in that perspective, I was saying that it's dumb, it's lazy, it's and whatever, and it's immoral. But I wasn't making like a fact of the universe. I was just saying that like it's abhorrent, it's like disgusting, it's something that should be avoided. So I guess like in that way, I would agree that morals exist. But like I guess my overall point in this conversation, and once again, I'm not married to it, is that morals are just something that is just like okay, like it's just like a made up term. Like
mm,
this is a fairy, and no, that's a fairy, and like okay, well, fairy can also include these two things. Like You know what I mean? Like it just seems like it's not, you can't point to it in reality. When you talk to a materialist, unless you're talking about Sam Harris, you can't point this in, you can't point to anything in reality. You just have to point to like, I don't know. You just have to
Mm,
point to like ideas, I guess.
mm. Morals are a very metaphysical concept. Yeah, that's what's troubling about them.
Yeah. And then so the argument that I've heard about like a rejection of veganism, right, or a rejection of the fact that we shouldn't eat sentient creatures or kill sentient creatures, is that like people operate essentially in their own preferences, and that we can't have a we don't have the ability to form a social contract with a lion. We only have the ability to form a social contract with other humans. So,
Mm,
like, we can form a social contract with a cow, but that cow will never be able to respect the social contract because they don't have the cognitive ability. And so, regardless of their like suffering and pain and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter, because they can't form the social contract with us. And the argument is essentially that, like, if people can't like create a social contract with us, we remove them from society. So, like for example, if a murderer starts murdering people, we go, okay, well, you're now breaking the social contract that people have with each other, which is the social contract to not murder, and so therefore we're removing you from society. Like,
mm.
so does that make sense? So like, yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I just keep saying yeah, but like, yeah.
Nah, nah. I think I get what you're saying here. So what you're saying is these people that deny the reject the vegan idea is they create this argument that well, it's because we can create we can create social contracts with other humans, but we can't with animals.
Well, yeah, well, sorry to be like dead, like explain explicitly what I mean. I've heard a lot of anti-vegan arguments, and I'm just to be upfront, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat meat, and mainly that's
Mm,
because of ethical reasons. But
mm,
one can make the argument that eating dairy is also pretty bad. So like whatever, like I'm happy to have that conversation with people, but the
mm,
but essentially the argument is like, well, if you're operating, um, like if you're going to make a morally consistent, not morally, if you're going to make a consistent argument, like, okay, so like how would someone yourself, like if you're going to make a consistent argument, the only way to do that and eat meat is to use that argument, which is the argument of like, they can't engage in social contract, because as
mm.
soon as you say like, even someone who, and we're getting deep now, and I'm pretty fucking drunk, and I apologize, but
No,
also
no.
not.
I'm also
um
kind of getting tired right now too. I'm
oh,
getting
okay.
drunk and tiredness.
Okay. So
Sorry.
like, if it is midnight, shit, we've been going for
Mm.
like 5 hours, my dude. Yeah,
Wow.
damn.
Yeah.
So the argument essentially, like, just to let you go before you go to bed and you can think about it in bed or whatever. But essentially, like, the argument, the argument, like, to be morally consistent with, when it comes to like animal suffering, is to either accept the fact that you can't eat animals for pleasure, for taste pleasure, or to accept the fact that,
We all
um,
have our own preferences
yeah, we
for.
all have our own preferences, and fuck them, they can't engage in the social contract. Because as soon as, like, so I'll have conversations all the time with people who say, oh, bacon though, bro, and like all this shit, right? And and stuff, and I'll say, well, like, is it okay to, eat a dog? And half of them will say no, half of them will say yes, and then I'll say, okay, well, is it okay to eat a human that has no parents or anything, but like, let's say both parents die, but has the same traits as a pig, so has the same
Mm,
intelligence as a pig, maybe they've got some sort of mental disability and they have the same intelligence as a pig, which a pig has the intelligence as like a 2 or 3 year old. Would it be okay to like chain up these people in an area where they won't even get to turn around in their whole life and then slit their throat or gas them in a gas chamber? Would that be morally acceptable? It's called the name the trait argument. Like, name the trait that's different about a pig or cow or a human. And unless you subscribe to like, well, the human has a soul or something, then really there is no like thing that you would accept for a human. Like no one would ever say, well, if human was as dumb as a pig, or if a human had as much intelligence as a pig, or if a human could feel as much as a pig, then like no one makes that argument. They all go, well, they're different. They're a pig. We're humans, and you go, okay, so what's the difference? Like, I forgot what it's called. Define the trait. So, what is it that is true of a human that, if true of a pig, would make it immoral to kill them in like a global holocaust in which they,
I guess if I may engage with that question, naming the trait. The one thing I would say, and this just came off the top of my head, is I guess children grow up, and obviously that's simple, but what I mean by that is that children, when they commit something, or when they not commit, but when they do something wrong, right, or they have a feeling, like as a kid, for example, I've really always thought about this feeling a lot. But as a kid, when I was swinging on a swing set, right, and I know I was pushing myself too hard and I might just fall and break my neck or something, I had a gut feeling that that is about to happen, right? But you don't really learn until it actually happens. So first of all, humans have the gut feeling of I think something is about to happen, and second of all, you also have that feeling, or that when you do something wrong, you learn from that, right? Where I feel like pigs' intelligence is limited to an extent where they first of all can't have that gut feeling, and second of all, don't as easy. I know they probably do have a learning process, for sure, but I don't think it's as it's as, I guess, lengthy. No, I guess as drawn out as the kid's learning process would be. Like maybe, sorry, they'd have to make the mistake a couple more times before they learn. Where maybe the kid is 1 or 2 times and he's got it down pat.
Yeah. Well, okay. So to address your second point first, if there was a human that had the exact mental capacity of a pig and would only ever grow to be as smart as a pig, would it be okay to treat them like we do with pigs, put them in like cages and then gas them or slit their
So
throat?
he has like this guy has a hypothetical mental block where he cannot exceed the
Yeah,
intelligence.
let's say he's mentally retarded.
Mhm.
Would it be okay to gas him and then use him for food because we like the taste?
And then so if I say if I say, well, no, and then you could argue, okay, well, why do the same thing to a pig?
Yeah. And this is where most people are just.
It's a really good argument. Yeah, no.
This is where most people are dishonest. And this is where most people. You see, most people are dishonest in this section, and they start arguing like in bad faith. But
it's difficult. It's really, yeah. I'm sorry I say this so often, but I couldn't know how to answer that question, to be honest.
Well,
It's
honestly, man.
Honestly, because then I would have to say, no, you can't kill the human. Therefore, no, you can't kill the pig.
But bacon though, right?
But bacon. To be honest, yeah. No.
But like, do you see like, okay, so this is actually what I really like about you is you do that, like you just go, okay, well, okay, this is interesting, and I hope that like none of this has been like too confrontational or anything, like the conversation with Will or anything, and that you're actually finding enjoyment of it, because I don't want you to walk away thinking like, holy shit, I just got like dogpiled for like 5 hours, and then like I'm never gonna communicate. Like I don't want you to think like that, and I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I
no, don't
wouldn't.
worry. I'm only gonna cry myself to sleep tonight. It's all good. No,
Okay, so like
no, no. I'm joking.
honestly,
No.
yeah, you honestly like
It has been quite entertaining, to be honest,
uh,
because the confrontation pushes me to, I guess, a sense of questioning, and I really like questioning. So yeah.
oh, that's good. I'm glad you like that. That's the same when I had the conversation with Godless Engineer. Like I was challenged a lot. Now that I walk away and I have to think about it more, I'm pretty like I need to read his resources, but I'm also pretty solid in my perspective that I went in on. But yeah, I'm the same. And that's why I said I think that we think the same in that like you tend to like not to blow my own horn, but you tend to go like, okay, what is the evidence? Like, how do we arrive at this conclusion or whatever? And yeah, if I had your brain at 17, like who knows where I'd be? But like, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, just before you go, what do you want to do in life? Do you like?
Uh, ja Something political or story writing. I definitely want to do journalism, but story writing as well is something I'll do on the side. Like I'd be a journalist with story writing on the side, probably. Definitely, maybe even filmmaking in the future. Entertainment as well. Really interested in.
Yeah,
There's a
right.
joke. There's a joke running in my family that my jobs always change. But I think I've finally settled on the. Like, if you asked me when I was like 7 years old what I wanted to be, I'd say magician. 10 years old, I'd say drummer. But I think I've finally settled in. Also 14 years old, I'd say lawyer. But I think I've finally settled in on journalism and
I
yeah, to be honest, story writing as well.
I don't think just to like give you some unwarranted advice. I don't think you need to like settle on anything, to be honest. But all those things are like really awesome. I remember having a conversation when I was like struggling with what I wanted to do in life, and obviously I came from a very Pentecostal background, and we believe that God had a specific plan for you, and I was always nervous that I wouldn't be doing God's plan. And I
Mm,
remember having conversations with someone, and he was a pastor, or not really a pastor. He was an elder in the church, and he said that when one time he was in India and he saw this path up this mountain, and he was like praying to God, and he was going for a walk, and he said, God, which way should I take? And he clearly heard God say, what path do you think you should take? And he really remembers clearly that that was a lesson that God taught him, that like he could take whatever path he wanted
mm,
up this mountain. And he said that in my situation, that I had all these things around me. I could go back to uni and do media. I could start this job as a surveyor. I could do all these like specific things, and every one of them was okay. He doesn't really care about the God didn't really care about the end goal. He cared about the desire behind it.
so he had the like epiphany, if I may say, of free will, I guess.
Yeah, essentially,
Mm,
yeah. And so like so in your situation, like if you wanted to be a journalist for 5 years and then moved on to media or whatever, that don't feel bad about that or anything. Um,
mm,
but like I think you've got the personality to be able to do these things easily. Like especially like journalism, like you have the ability somehow, like at such a young age, to be able to not get offended at positions that aren't your own, which is really awesome and really incredible. Um, and you also have the ability to try and like rationalize things out. I imagine, like, I haven't experienced this, but like if I was to say to you, like 1 + 1 = 5, you'll probably disagree with like the logic underneath that because you're like, well, it doesn't. But you would still go, okay, like you wouldn't have to like argue it until like a lot of people have to argue it forever until like it's whatever. So I can see
well,
you
they're
doing,
right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I can see you doing journalism. There's a book I'm reading at the moment called Beyond Belief
Mm,
by Ali Hardy and this author here. And she's an Australian author, and she talks about the roots of Pentecostalism, the
mm,
Christianity, and it's the first time I've read a book from like a proper journalist, and it's super interesting. Like
mm.
Yeah, I don't know what type of journalism you want to do, but yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I
Political journalism, just to
yeah.
uh,
Oh, okay, political journalism. So like, what type?
political and also any topics that interest me pretty much. Yeah.
So do you want to be like Friendly Geordies?
I've heard of Friendly Geordies. I forgot what he does again.
He does like YouTube videos on politics and stuff. But he's in
Oh,
this.
him! Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The one, isn't he the one that went to the that not Nazi? It's like the people that are like they're young something and they're basically like fascists or something.
Oh, I'm
And
not
he
sure. He's an
really like.
Australian. He's an Australian dude. He lives in Sydney. Um, and he always hangs
I
out with
know. I
Kevin
really like
Rudd.
the video. Sorry to cut you off, but I really like the video of him where he like went to that anti-vax rally, and he just I think it was him. He went around asking for a doctor,
Oh no,
and like
that's Lewis Spears.
oh sorry, that's Lewis Spears.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. But the same kind of like Friendly
tough.
Geordies is sort of like
Yeah, very provocative.
yeah, yeah, very productive. He did all the videos like Bruz, like about John Barilaro and
Oh yeah, John Barilaro, that was him, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
like yeah. I mean, hey man, if you wanted to start a YouTube channel and get real provocative, I'd shout you out on my 500 subscriber YouTube channel for sure. So
Yeah, no. The one idea I have had for a while, which is semi-provocative, is I've always wanted to go to countries like just go around the world and then go to like locals or natives and then ask them like a question that would really just like blow their socks off. Like, what the hell? First, why do you ask me? That's so rude almost to ask me that. Like, for example, one idea I've always had is to go to America or to go to like a one of the New Age Christian religions in America and like or one of the Protestant denominations and then just say like what's your opinion on the fact that like your Christian denomination is so split from original Christianity that the only link it has to original Christianity is this sort of path that it took and then just see
oh
them like get, baffled. If I could continue the sort of deep conversation we're having, I guess. What's it called? The one thing that this is I'm going back to the conversation we were having about my what I want to pursue
mm,
and what realizing why I wanted to pursue those things.
yeah.
I when I started getting into philosophy, I thought I could create my own sort of like philosophy, and then
Yeah.
obviously I'm probably wrong, but I still sort of and obviously this is also probably another philosophy that's already been created that I'm citing as my own, but what's it called? I arrived at the idea once I thought about it for a long time that I thought and still pretty like think to this day that the ultimate purpose in life and this is a tall claim to make like what is the ultimate purpose in life
Yeah. I'm already
but
raising my eyebrows.
yeah I came to the conclusion that I feel like the ultimate purpose in any man's life or any person's life sorry is for fulfillment and like fulfillment is a general term but generally it's to me fulfillment is the acquisition of a conclusion or of a of a inner I guess spiritual but also inner goal uh
Mm.
completing goal achieving you should set a goal for yourself and you should achieve it no matter how tall or how small the goal is. I feel like any person anywhere uh, has that purpose because they think they have a purpose if they realize it or not and they should first of all try and realize what their purpose is and second of all to the best of their ability I think they should reach for that goal.
So you're saying like any like it's all fulfillment essentially. Like
Yeah, I think that every single person has the sole goal of trying to fulfill themselves or trying to fulfill something.
I mean that
Mm.
I mean that like I would agree with that, but the only problem I would have with it is that it begs the question that there is a purpose.
Mm.
Like you couldn't you easily just to say like the I mean, do you see the presupposition that's underneath that already?
That there is a purpose, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Mm.
it seems like you're essentially going like, okay, well, like if we were to argue that there, like if we were to like, I think that statement makes you feel good. Like definitely,
Mm.
like it makes you go like,
That
okay,
that's now that I look back at it as well. Yeah, I also do think of that a lot. Yeah, maybe it's just something to make me feel good. Yeah.
but that's okay. Like, but like it gets foundational. Like, what is purpose? Like, why do we have purpose? Like,
Mm.
um, but the thing is, like, the thing is, we're working primarily on two different worldviews. So I'm working under a materialist worldview where, like, essentially we're just atoms bashing around, right? And then whenever someone says to me, like, oh well, you know, how do you explain consciousness? I go, I don't know. Maybe it's just like you know, something in consciousness we don't understand. And then like you know, the creationist or the theist laughs and goes, ha ha ha, we know where consciousness comes from. It comes from the soul. And then I say to the creationists, you know, how do you know X? And they go, oh, I don't know. And then like we're both essentially, I don't know, but we're both using things that explain some things but don't explain other things. Like it's not a
Mm.
working theory. It's like I always like to use the analogy like we're two Greeks sitting at a table and like we hear thunder on the mountain and we both go like, oh, what's that? And then like one of us says, oh, that's Zeus moving his furniture around. And the other person says, no way, it's Apollo, you know, casting stuff from the sea or whatever. I don't know,
Mm.
Apollo, you know. And it's like, well, maybe neither of us are right, and maybe the answer is just I don't know. But at the same time, it's a very deeply unsatisfactory answer. Like,
Mm.
it's not enjoyable. But then you're already begging the question there of like, well, the answer has to be enjoyable. So,
Mm. Does the answer have to be enjoyable? I think the reason why, when I look back at it, I thought that the fulfillment philosophy is the philosophy I arrived at is because what's it called? It's so universally it's almost like a blanket statement. Like it covers everything. Even if you're a nihilist, you could still say in essence you have a goal. So that's why I thought fulfillment was the ultimate answer because everyone wants to do something.
yeah, I agree with you. Like even if you are a nihilist, it works. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you, but
Mm.
the problem, like the issue that I have with it is it's unnecessary.
Mm.
Like what?
Like
Why do we need a purpose?
yeah, like you can question then like from then like, well, okay, why do we have to do something?
Yeah, like you're begging the question. Yeah, like why do we need to have a purpose? Like,
It doesn't answer that question, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that concludes our conversation for now.
you were so like this has been a really I can't believe we started on trying to talk about
Yeah,
this Bible thing and
chapter.
then we've entered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really enjoyable for me. I just hope that you haven't been too like it hasn't been horrible for you or whatever. You haven't felt like you've been
No, no,
dogpiled or
not at all,
anything.
not at all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Because
no,
like
it was pretty eye-opening to be honest. Every discussion here is pretty eye-opening.
I don't want to like um it feels very much like when Will came on and stuff. It feels very much like, you know, there's two atheists kind of like, you know, just thinking
Bashing, jumping.
who have thought about things like a million times over, and any answer you give is kind of like already thought about, and like I don't
Yeah,
want it to I don't want it to feel like that,
no, no, not
like
at all.
because I do feel like you bring a lot to the table and stuff, but it's just, yeah. So I just don't want you to feel like that. But
No, no, not at all, not at all.
all right, well, thanks for chatting, man. It's been 5.5 hours, so I'll let you go, and I'm gonna go eat some noodles and go to bed.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to you later.